There we go. Technology's acting a little sluggish the last few days.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, just weird things happen to my computers, my phone, lights. So it's just
Working with spirit, you got to expect interruptions.
the world I live in, for sure. This is so,
It's really good to see you, by the way. It's been a few months. How have you been?
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, everything is quite excellent. Today in New Zealand, it's the first day of spring. So everything is looking upwards and more warmth because it's been very cold.
Time for rebirth. I see you're all dressed very warmly right now. Yeah, so it's a bit chilly still.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, this time of year, you can get the best of weather or it can throw everything at you that it wants to, basically. So, but it's definitely warmer than it has been. So how about yourself? How have you been?
We are starting to cool down a little bit. It was really hot for a while here, like trying to think your temperature, since you do Celsius, don't you? So it was about mid-30s for a while, getting a bit it was really, really hot for us. But yeah, it's starting to cool down. We're swapping, you know, our fall is moving in.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, here in New Zealand, when it's winter, it's not like you guys would get it over there. And because everything is still green and you always have flowers all year round and stuff like that. But, you know, where I live, where it's near the beach. So, yeah, it's quite pleasant. You can still go on nice walks and stuff like that, but you don't have to rug up too much. So,
yeah. So I was wondering, you've been busy lately. You've been keeping up with all the 5D stuff, I imagine, getting ready for the shift to happen, huh?
Shift is, I think the shift has been happening for quite a long time, actually. And yeah, I think everyone's just been really whacked around with all the different energies and the gear changes that are actually happening. But yeah, I sort of try to gauge every day the feelings. And I must admit, over the last maybe 3 weeks, there's definitely been a gear change in a good way, and turned a corner and sort of feel that something's aligned or something's been lifted, which is good. So,
absolutely. You definitely feel the energies are changing almost on a day-to-day basis, and in some ways intensifying.
Yeah, when you make doing what I do as other people who do this sort of work, you're just conscious of that vibration all the time. And you know, you have a level of awareness which just makes you really alert to life on all these different dimensions and levels, as opposed to, you know, most people who are living in their human nature and just deal with human frequencies. But then when you start working with your higher natures, then you just give yourself access to everything. And that's got to be a good thing, right?
So, absolutely. Never a dull moment when you're a part of the all.
Regardless of the roller coaster ride that we find ourselves on at times, basically. But I don't think I'd have it, you know, trying to look back on how I was prior to, you know, turning the lights on, as I say. You know, it's like looking on a total stranger and being involved in an energy that has no bearing or no relevance to who you are now. And I'm sure a lot of listeners are understanding that as well. So,
well, there's going to be some people that have been following you for many, many years, and there's going to be some people that are new to your work. So how about we start from the beginning of the ride, shall we?
Sure, absolutely.
If you don't mind explaining, how did you first discover your talent with mediumship?
Well, I'll go back to when I was 6 years old, and I was born in Canada. And where we lived, we were in Vancouver, and we were up in this sort of mountain area. And as a child, I just would wander through all the forests and have absolutely no fear, because there would be wild animals around. You know, there would be bears and mountain lions and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, just never occurred to me. And I was just really drawn to nature. And I would find these places in the forest, which now I realize I'd stepped into some sort of parallel universe. And it was just the most amazing, beautiful, magical sort of energy. And I remember just sort of lying down on the ground and looking at the sun dappling through the trees, and feeling that everything was alive. But it just felt just normal to me. I used to call it something more because I didn't really know how to define it. And so I would always go looking for the something more. And if I tried to go back to the same place, I could never find it again. And I remember when we would go on Sunday drives with the family, and suddenly I'd see something that would remind me of that. And I would always go, something more, like that. And my parents would be sort of looking around going, what? What are you talking about? And way at the top, there's this long road that went up further up into some more mountainous area. And there was a cemetery up there in the corner. And I used to go into the cemetery all the time and just wander around the graves. And I could feel the energies. And I, again, didn't know what that was all about. But it just felt normal to me. And there was this little grassy knoll with these pine trees on it. And I would sit on that, and I think it was probably like a portal, because I could remember heaven. And I remember sitting and crying my eyes out, because I was remembering heaven, and this place called Earth wasn't really what it was all about, basically. When I was 10, our family immigrated to New Zealand. And so I still had that connection with spirit, but I just kicked into, growing up and experiences and that type of thing. New Zealand was this total paradise, and we came in 1971, and it was like any other place. You just couldn't imagine living anywhere else. It was just, I'd never known anything like it. Coming from a massive continent and city like Vancouver in Canada, and then going to this island, and where it was palm trees and white sands, and everyone had the doors wide open all the time. The kids wandered around in bare feet all year round, sort of stuff like that. So, but in the background, there was always this sense of something, and I realized now that was sort of supporting me through my journey, because I didn't particularly have an easy time of it when I was growing up, because I was so separate from everyone else. So, I was, bullied quite a bit, and ignored a lot, and all that sort of stuff, basically. And, you learn how to grow a thick skin, when you're young, and just sort of get on with it.
Character building, yes. Thicker skin.
But then, yeah, I mean, obviously these things have an effect on you. But I always remember thinking, and this is even as a young child, that my life had something to do with God, but I didn't know what that meant. I knew it had nothing to do with religion. It just had something to do with something more. And when I look back in retrospect now, I realize that I always had a presence around me all of the time. But to me, it just felt that was just normal. I didn't think other people didn't have that. I thought everyone had that energy. But then as I grew up and started to reason things more, then I realized that, actually, you're in a fairly unique position here, but I still didn't know what it was all about. And so I was a teenager in the 70s, and in my 20s in the 80s. So it was a really cool time to live, because the music was great, the clubs were great, and you had your mates and your girlfriends and the clubs, and you just got out there and lived life. And
you've been waiting for the age of Aquarius since then, haven't you, really?
Oh, yeah, completely. So I started a relationship with the woman who became my wife, invariably, when I was in my 20s. And so in my late 20s, she was diagnosed with cancer. And at the time, it wasn't a very good prognosis. So we just started doing a lot of reading and meditating and that type of thing. And she survived that. But it was the catalyst that opened up the something more again. And when that happened, this synchronicity started to occur. So it was almost like I'd suddenly opened up and was putting out these signals as if to say, right, I'm ready. I didn't know what I was ready for, but I'm ready for something here. And I knew it was spiritual, but I didn't know how it was going to unfold. I remember we were sitting one day outside our veranda in the summer and just having a glass of wine, and this guy walks by, and then suddenly he came back, and he came up the path, and he handed me this homemade book, and he says, I have to give this to you. I've been told to give this to you. And then he just took off. And I'm like, oh, so I opened it up, and it was all these poems, spiritual poems. And little things like that kept happening. And I used to run this clothing store, and I was doing some dressing in the window one day, and this woman was standing there, and she was just staring at me like this, and I'm sort of like, who are you? Why are you staring at me? And then she went away, and then she came back into the shop, and then she just came in and started giving me these messages from spirit and say, you have all this energy around you, and you're going to be doing this, that, and the other, like that. And I'm like looking at her like, what do you want? And then she disappeared. And then just these feelings of being pushed into a certain direction presented itself to me. And Kay had made quite a good recovery by this stage, so we kicked into life. And we'd been doing lots of things. We thought, well, let's just check out everything out. We would go up to the Buddhist monastery, which was, a few miles up the road, and we would go to their open meditations. We would check out everything. We would go to Hare Krishna meetings. We would do, Japanese, Tao Buddhist things, and spiritual reality things. And then they had this friend of ours who had discovered a channel called Ramtha. And who it was an American woman, Jay-Z Knight, who channeled Ramtha. So he used to have Ramtha evenings where he'd get hold of the videos in those days where people would watch these. And that was like, to me, I was like, whoa, this is the truth, sort of stuff. And then it just kept happening time again. And I was reading a lot of books, and I remember reading Shirley MacLaine's book, Out on a Limb, which she wrote about her own spiritual journey. And there was one chapter where she was talking about a connection she had with this friend of hers, and they were walking along a beach. And she had said to him, what's the best way to align to the consciousness? And he just said, well, the best way is to say you are God. And when I read that, that made so much sense to me. It was like, that's it. That's what I'm feeling. That's what this is all about. I am God. And actually, just to fast forward a little bit, some years later, when I think I'd been 3 years into being a public channel, I was interviewed by National Radio in New Zealand. So I went to the studio. We were in the studio, and we're chatting away and all that. And then this is a live program. And then the woman said to me, well, what's your philosophy? So to the whole of the country, I said, well, I'm God. And I believe that we're all God, and that we're all here to teach each other how to be God. Well, she just went like this, and she didn't know what to say. She for 10 seconds, which is a long time on radio, there was nothing. And then it was like she just came to. And then she said, oh, I don't know why, but what you've just said makes total sense to me. And then the conversation went on from that point. It was a really good interview. Anyway, the phones were ringing hot all over the country going, who is this guy who thinks God? And I had a meditation, and I put the thought out to Tabaash and said, Tabaash, I've just outed myself as God to the whole of the country. and he says to me, yeah, isn't that awesome? He goes, how many people get that chance? For most people, it's full of people or your friends or whatever like that. But you've just told 5 million people that you're God. And by doing, he said, it raised your consciousness. So and I think about other, if you look at times in our lives where we have impactful moments where we've known we've shifted something within ourselves, we've changed something to raise our consciousness. And so that was one of those sort of situations, definitely. I've had a few more since then, but probably nothing as telling the whole of the country that you're God.
It takes a lot of courage to say that. It really does. So I must commend that, because it is true. I fully believe that we are all God expressing ourselves as individuals for whatever purpose that may be. And when you tell somebody this who has been thinking about Sky Daddy for so long, it's unfathomable to some people, and it really shakes the whole foundation of their reality.
I think to really understand the concept of that, I think you have to, or perhaps relook at our perception of what God is. And we've been conditioned by outside influences to see God in a human way. So humans try to personify God, but of course it's not a person. It's a state of consciousness that is everything, and of course it's a living being energy. But we are all that vibration ourselves. So therefore, that's why when we say we are God, then we're taking our natural place in life. And I read somewhere recently, which was, everything is God, therefore we are all knowing. And then it said something interesting, which I found again made sense. One of those little cha-ching moments, which it said, there is no such thing as creation, because creation implies time. And to God, time does not exist, because everything is just there. So that means there's nothing to create. It's just here. It's just there. We are the power. And then, as it said, it comes down to the choices. So it's the choices that we make that defines what our experiences are going to be. And I've been working with that quite a bit, because when I do my morning meditations, I always affirm I am the vibration of God. And so the other day I was doing that. I said, I am the vibration of God. And then I thought about my day, and I thought, okay, I'm going to use my power to have an excellent day, to have a really great session at the gym, to go out in the evening and have a really nice time with my friends, and, all the things that I was doing that day. So I'm using my power. And when you see that in that sense, it's like, I'm using my power, to be the best I can be, as opposed to it's over there, or I've got to find it, or, that type of thing. And again, that just made so much sense to me. And I think that's what's actually happening for all of us at this particular point. We're coming to this revelation. And then we come to that revelation, then we're activating the God nature in us, which means we activate consciously that we are the power. We are the vibration, we are the energy, nothing to be found. And in fact, as Tabaash said yesterday, there's nothing out there. It's just a big blank.
It's an inner shift, not an outer shift.
Yeah. It's like, it's just the space. It's all about what's in here. And so the more you have that relationship internally, the more you decide what you're going to do with that big blank, so to speak. And that's where the choices come into. And I think that is so liberating, because you realize that I don't have to work this out. I don't have to find myself. I don't have to sort my life out. I need to stand still in the highest position that I am, and then just make decisions, make choices. But from that higher perspective, because the moment we put human emotions into it, that's when we color it up and make things difficult. And so when we can observe from our highest perspective, then we can be specific about what emotions that we're going to use. And I think, in human terms, and I'm still like that myself at times, you just sort of throw out a frequency, throw out an emotion, and without realizing the implication of what's that going to be. And you can still project an emotion, but just allowing the randomness of it is what puts us into trouble, you see. And suddenly we've got to work that out, or tidy that up, or clean that up, or whatever the case is. So.
We are all working so hard right now to raise the frequency of the planet, and I feel that understanding our nature with God is part of that. It's a relearning. It's a re-empowerment, because so much of our divinity comes from knowledge of self.
Well, I think it's a remembering. We're remembering what we are, and so because as I said before, if we're gods, we're all knowing and all powerful. So we know everything. And so our self-development is creating opportunities and activating catalysts in our lives that allow us to bring that remembering through. That's why so much of what we hear or read or watch, etc., it just makes sense. How often people go, "Oh, I know that." So it's often reaffirming and reminding you, "Hey, no, this is who you are, not about what you have to become." And I think that at this year, I really feel that mind, body, and spirit, we've discovered these extraordinary versions of ourselves that are all lit up by that higher consciousness. So therefore, we've been able to see, who we are. And then, as obviously all of us have discovered, that sometimes we see stuff that we realize, oh yeah, I've got to change that, or I've got to do something with that. And just recently, I did a Tabaash event, and before Tabaash started to speak, he took the audience through just a very simple meditation first. He just said, "I just want to show you guys something. I want to try something with you." So got them into a really relaxed state. And then, to everyone's surprise, he said, "Okay, I want you to now think of all the worst things that have ever happened to you. Go and indulge in your misery. Go and find your trauma." That's what he was going. And you could feel the ripple of energy going through.
I was not expecting that.
Right, they did it. And you got to the point where everyone was feeling pretty miserable. And then he said, "Now, think about something that makes you happy. Think about joy. Think about greatness. Think about success. Think about something that thrills you and makes you feel that it's the best thing that ever happened to you." And they did that. And then, he let them in that for a while. And then he said, "Open your eyes." And he said, "You've just proven to yourself how easy it is to shift your consciousness. You went from your trauma into your happiness, just like that, by just changing your perception." But then he said, "Hands up for those who resisted." And there's some hands that went up. And he said, "For those people who found it difficult to move from limitations into unlimitedness," he said, "that's an indicator to you that you still need to make peace with something, that you're locked up into some way of thinking or some way of feeling or some story that doesn't serve you." So when we find it's difficult to move forward or difficult to make that gear change, it doesn't mean we're wrong, or it doesn't mean we're not evolved. It just means that we're locked onto an old story or an old emotion or an old idea. We haven't had some formal closure on something, or not at peace with something. And it is as easy as he did. So you just changed your mind. You just went from that scene to that scene. And the moment you changed the scene, you changed your chemistry about it. You shifted the way that you experience things. And I really think about that, if I ever feel myself that I get into a bit of a, as Tabaash calls it, a misery guts place, that you think, well, hang on a minute, change is only a thought away. And the moment you change the idea, you change the vibration, which changes the chemistry. And if you're consistent with paying attention to a better story, then we create a better energy. And that means, hey, I don't have to try so hard or figure this out or work this out or go through a process or whatever, have lots and lots of therapies, etc. There's always a point where we can need a little bit of a booster, but we have all this power inside of us, all this life inside of us, all this energy that's just there. And anyone who's been involved in self-development knows that. That's why they are involved in self-development, because there's something greater that they are feeling and are remembering, and therefore want to live that energy. So anybody involved in any form of self-development is developing the natural way of experience themselves. And that's why all this lights that are being turned on is so advantageous to us all, because we're all allowing that light to be turned on by the fact that we're listening to ourselves, going internal, taking it, putting it into action, and living that vibration, and that automatically illuminates. And we all have that capability of doing so. And I'm just thinking about the design behind you on your wall or ceiling or whatever, and all interlinked. We're like that, we're all these aspects.
It was here when I moved in. I had no hand in that, but I've been told that it was made for me before I arrived.
There you go. So it's a reminder that it's like that. We're all these interconnected pieces, and we make the whole. And so we have our own individual stories, but then after we step away from our individual stories and look at what we are collectively, that's what's happening now. So we're pulling in as to one point of consciousness, and when that occurs, then it allows this activation within our souls to start really drawing in the power of life on a conscious level. And then every day we live, it's entirely our prerogative how we live that and breathe that, walk that, and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, I just feel this power and energy, and it's that concept, how we say we are in love with life, but I would like to say we are in life with life. And so we're just taking our natural position in this experience, and so as we step away from the confinement of our human story and then open up into a higher story, then we can direct our human story with more light. And so you get this collaboration of mind, body, and spirit, which is really happening at this particular point. You really feel that, people are really sifting out this stuff, and unfortunately for some people, they create some form of suffering in their lives. But regardless of that, there's always something that can support that. If one allows,
this is a major transition period for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, totally. But we've all chosen to be alive at a time in human history where that's actually occurring. So this is what's natural to us. It's not unnatural in any way whatsoever, because as individuals, we wanted to obviously advance our own position. So we've chosen to participate in all of these experiences that give us a chance to actually do that. And then as we gauge our responses to this, that's when we understand whether we're getting it or not, because our responses will always tell us about our situations. So it's not about that, it's about us, whether it's a person or a circumstance or situation. What is our response? And I think humans are having a better response now, because a lot more people have their lights turned on, and they realize that there's more, they have access to more than what they thought. And so we're bringing that energy in more. But I think that, again, this is something I'm become more a lot aware of how much through history, there's always powers that be that try to dumb people down and keep people limited in belief systems, and try to steer you away from the idea that you are all empowering, that you have the answers, and so on and so forth. And of course, a lot of people buy into that. And there's a lot of concerted efforts into keeping people's physiology addicted to drugs, food, life situations, etc. Not so much in New Zealand, but when you look at in America, they have, when I travel there, I'm astounded at the amount of TV commercials that are all about pharmaceuticals. I am absolutely, we don't have that in New Zealand. You do not have ads all about pharmacy stuff. It's just not allowed.
Well, they spend more money on marketing than they do research and development. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm just laughing because it's like, can you imagine some ET coming from Earth and looking at this, and they must think, my God, poor Earth people, they've got hemorrhoids, they've got bad skin problems. You know, who wants to go to Earth?
I know. It's crazy down here. The ETs lock their doors as they go by, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
But I mean, we jest about it, but yeah, but you can see the marketing, the control, the campaigns, that type of thing, and I think a lot of it is quite subliminal as well. And you know, we're
I think a
completely
lot of people
bombarded.
are starting to see it too. They're seeing through the smoke and mirrors now.
Yeah. Well, as much as I can, I turn off the radio, I turn off the TV, you know, because there's always information that's being bombarded. There's nothing positive at all. You know, this morning I turned on the news, and it's always about some problem, or they're interviewing someone who went through some trauma, or they're talking about the war in the Ukraine, or all this sort of stuff. And it's just this constant barrage of negativity. And look, I'm not saying don't keep yourself on the loop. I think it's important to know what's going on, but we don't need to be reminded 24/7, you know, about what's happening. You know, I mean, often, you know, in all due respect to the United States, often when I have listened to the radio, it's all about what's going on with your up and coming elections and stuff like that. You know, and it's
Just
like,
that is.
well, where am I living? So, but
It's funny, even like Australia will be talking about American elections. You know, it's like it's become such a big drama, you know, soap opera that it's become entertainment for other countries.
Yeah, which is scary, I think. Because,
scary,
you know,
yeah, exactly.
people thinking that, you know, they're going to get caught up into that vibration and that energy rather than focusing on, you know, what's important in your country and what are the issues that need to be done.
Oh. See, we start talking about politics and we start glitching out. Can you hear me now? That was really weird. The cabal was like, nope, no. You went muted. Did you hit the mute button somehow? Very odd. No, it's just, there's no sound. Wow. Yeah, there's no sound whatsoever right now. Can you hear me though? Do you mind restarting, clicking that link I sent you again? Can you hear me? No, your voice is completely gone. That was so weird. See what I told you guys? This is why we have a Styra. Because this is what they do. As soon as we start talking politics, they're like, yep. Just re-click that. Yeah, if you leave again and then re-click the link, it should kick back in for whatever reason it did that. Oh my God, you guys. I'm speechless right now. What are the odds? We start talking about politics and they're like, nope. Nope. Well, I didn't see that coming. I saw the glitch in the Matrix, but I was like, nah, this will be fine. It'll sort itself out. Well, so how about them Yankees, guys? Like, what? There we go.
Hello.
You're back.
Got me back.
We can hear you now. Yeah, that was weird. Maybe we should maybe we should change the subject.
Watching me.
Wow.
Oh.
Now you see, this is the funny thing is that it's like the AI or something with technology. They're always listening, you know.
Yeah. So hi guys, we know you're watching us.
Yeah, raising the frequency. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, well, where were we?
Well, we're talking politics, but we can't do that now.
Yes, that's true. I had some questions I actually wrote down, so I can go back to that, shall we?
Okay.
Have you ever learned about the nature of your relationship to Tabaash? Is he another version of you, or like a twin flame type of thing, or is he like a close family friend, or?
I know he was, so he's not a version of me. And when I first came in contact with him, it was interesting. It was actually through another channel. And I had been drawn to, in my journeying, I went to this workshop, and there's this woman who channeled the Egyptian goddess Isis. And it was Isis who actually told me I was a channel. It was quite interesting. I had been flicking through the paper, and my wife and I had just been overseas, and we'd come back, and there's this little tiny ad in the paper, and it was this woman who channeled Isis as she's running a public meeting. So I said to Kay, oh, wow, we've got to check this out. Let's look at this. So we went to the meeting, and there's about 100 people there. And so this woman stands up, and she brought Isis through, and you could feel the shift in energy as she was, bringing Isis through, and quite mesmerized. And I'm quite a, believe it or not, a shyish person. And so I always like to stay in the, last rows of the room, so to speak, and always on the edge. So if I need to get out, I can leave. So I'm always on the end seat. And so we're sitting there, and then Isis is talking away and chatting away, and really good information. And then she stops and stares into the audience like this. And then she points and she says, "You are a channel." And I didn't think she's talking about me. I thought she was talking about some dude who was sitting, behind me.
Like, what?
And, so then she goes, no, not him. You, like this, you see. So of course everyone turns around and stares at me. So I'm like, like this.
No, I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, the long and short of it was we ended up doing some of the workshops that she used to run. And it was extraordinary because everyone there was like-minded. So we're talking in the late 80s here. And it was the first time I'd ever come across a group of people who were like-minded. And we just bonded, and it was wonderful. And it's, everyone became really good friends, and we would socialize and all that sort of stuff. And it was just, like I said, it was just wonderful. And then, but it was Isis who said to me, "Oh, you've got this spirit around you called Tabaash." His full name is Tabaash Salam Maham. That's his full name. And I'm like, oh, yeah, didn't mean anything to me at that stage. And she said he wants to work with you. So anyway, I carried on connecting with Isis and having great fun with them, all that sort of stuff. And then one day I was having meditation, and then this face suddenly appeared right in my mind like that. And it just was staring at me. And I knew it was him, but I didn't say anything. I just thought, oh, okay, well, what do you say? So, and that happened for quite a long time. And then after a while, he started to talk to me and just chat about stuff, nothing major or anything like that. Like it was getting me used to his presence and his vibration and energy. And then he started talking to me about doing specific meditations and following little things through, which I did. And then one day I was having meditation, and I was in the most glorious space. It was really extraordinary. And then Tabaash appeared in my mind's eye, and he said, "Open your eyes." And I actually resisted because I was in quite a nice meditative space, real bliss. And he goes, "Open your eyes, Blair," in the way he does. And so I did. I wasn't in the I was out there. And I'm like, okay. And I remember so specifically when I was actually sitting on a floor, and the floor was black and white marble tiles, and they had these big windows on the right with all this light streaming in. And I was looking around, and then Tabaash walks in, and he just looks down at me and laughs. And you know what his laugh is like. And he just laughed, and he goes, "Why are you sitting on the floor?" And then he goes, up, I want to talk to you. So up I got, followed him wherever we went. And then we went and sat on these sofas. And he just started talking to me about the work we could do. And that, our souls had made an agreement to serve. And that if I was agreeable to it, then I would be the channel and he would be the spirit who would talk through. And he just started talking about, things that he wanted me to do to prepare myself for this. When he was talking, it just made total sense. It was like, this is the beginning of the mission that I'd signed up for. And it made complete sense to me in every way possible. And so then I just started to, and I agreed. And then I, from that moment on, it just started to develop using my body more through my meditations and things. I wasn't doing anything public. I remember thinking quite specifically, well, if I'm going to do this, because I had no sense of where it was going to go, I want to make sure that this is real. And I wasn't doubting, but I'm quite a logical person, so I just needed to, cover all the bases. So I did that, and then gradually I realized, yep, this is happening. And then I just started working with it. I didn't tell anyone what was going on, apart from a few friends. And then Tabaash would start practicing through me. And in those days, it was just eyes closed, and it was just the voice.
Right.
And then little by little, he started to develop. Well, I suppose I developed the ability to bring more of that energy through me, so therefore he could, do what he needed to do.
Yeah, you even channel with your eyes open, which is quite rare. Yeah. It's cool.
No, don't do that. But because Tabaash is very personable and he really likes to connect with people, and like when I've done a lot of public stuff, sometimes Tabaash will actually wander around, chat to the audience and give little people messages and blah, 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 but he makes it of the journey with everybody. I remember once I did a thing in the States and Tabaash was talking, and he was talking to this person about some issue. He never gets over personal if it's in a big audience thing like that. So he tries to keep it, within the realms of decency and to keep it general. But then, and then he'd be saying something to the person. Then he'd look at everyone else. Well, what do you guys think? What would you do? This sort of stuff. And so he loves to integrate everything, and because we're all here to serve each other, and he hates it to think that that people see him like he's there and everyone is there. He's just like, no, we're all here. We're all the same. We're all linked in, and we're all here to serve each other. We're all gods. I'm just God doing it this way. You're God doing it that way. And so it's definitely him and it's definitely me, and we've made this agreement. So he's doing it his way. I'm doing it my way. We got a contract, and that will carry on until I pass. And so it's and he only channels through me. He doesn't channel through anyone else. And I know there are who channel through other people, like the soul of Saint Germain and souls like that. So, but yeah,
what an honor.
I'm sorry.
So what an honor to be the only one channeling him.
Oh yeah, but it's just. I mean, I always just look at it like, oh, this is my life. I don't see it as anything unusual. I mean, I've done this most of my life, and so it's just part of who I am and part of my experience, basically.
So how did you meet Dolores Cannon? We love Dolores so much. Many of us we know each other, many of us through Dolores. So how did you meet her?
Well, I was reading one of her books. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been one of the Convoluted Universe ones. And in the midst of the book, I had this telephone call from some friends of mine who live down South Island in Christchurch. And the first thing he said to me after, "Hi Blair, how you doing?" was, "Have you ever heard of Dolores Cannon?" Like this. And I'm like, okay. Well, I'm just actually reading one of her books right now as we speak. And so I thought something's up. And he said, well, we're going to host her to come to Christchurch to do a seminar. And we had this absolutely strong feeling you had to meet her. And when he said that, I just got all goosey and tears came, which is always indicators of you got to do this. So I knew I had to go down to Christchurch, and I had a whole week's people booked up for sessions. So I thought, oh God, but I thought, no, I have to do this. So I postponed everyone, said to Kay, look, I have to go to Christchurch. She got the same feeling. So I went down there and met her, and she had a session with Tabaash. And that's when she said to Martin and Mary, oh, he's the real deal, because, Dolores was pretty clued up about stuff. So that was a confidence booster. And then, we just connected. I just helped set up some stuff when the conference that she did, so I became a bit of a helper there. And then she was staying at my friend's place, so I said, "Oh, I'll cook dinner for everyone," and she was very, very impressed because her generation. And so I cooked Dolores Cannon dinner, and we just we had a good time, and then she invited me to be one of the key speakers at one of her transformation conferences. And so I flew to the States and did that. And I ended up being a key speaker, about 6 or 7 times at her conferences. And then we did some touring together. So around the States, and she came back to New Zealand, and I organized a big event for her, which Tabaash and Dolores were on stage together, and it was great. And we became such extraordinary friends. And she's still around me. She pops up on my phone every so often. I've got this photograph of her, and whenever she wants me to know she's there, and it will always be when my phone is turned off, and all of a sudden it'll turn itself on, and there's this picture of Dolores that's just there. and
She's texting you. Wow.
No, it's just like, okay, and when she passed was interesting because my wife had Alzheimer's, and I was looking after her for 15 years. She passed 4 years ago, but she had to go into hospital for something, and I think got home from the hospital about 1 a.m, and I went to bed. I don't usually have my phone near the bed. I always like to just put it somewhere else, but I thought I better keep it there just in case hospital rings me. And I was dreaming, and I had this dream that I was wandering through this big house. And in the dream, I was thinking, oh, this is a house of someone I know who's died, but I don't know who died. So I'm wandering through this house, and then I got woken up because my phone was texting. And I thought, oh, it's at the hospital. And then it was Julia, Dolores' daughter, saying that Dolores had passed. And I thought, oh God, okay, that, and then I felt Dolores around like straight away the moment I thought that. And then something bizarre happened. I remember lying down in bed, and then I don't know, I can't describe what it was, but all of a sudden the room went sort of all this misty white color, and I was sort of lying there going like, wow, what's this, and to this day I have no idea what it was, and because when I asked Spirit, they didn't give me any indication. But I don't know, maybe it was just stepping into some consciousness. I think now as I'm speaking this, I think maybe it was like going into a vibration and an energy which was helping me and healing me, with Kay's situation and stuff. So, but that only ever happened once, but it was attached to the most beautiful feeling, like this really amazing energy, basically. So Dolores makes herself known. She wants her work to be carried on, and wants people to keep developing. Here's the thread, pick it up, run with it, evolve with it, as everything does. And she was such a extraordinary pioneer in the way that she worked and works. And we think about souls such as that. you know, regardless of whether they're physical or non-physical, you know, the journey still carries on. You know, and I think that's probably an important thing to remember for all of us who are involved in any form of being a light worker. You know, it's just the ongoingness of the evolution of it, and we just keep finding new ways of being and doing and creating and evolving and expanding, and you know, all that sort of stuff. We have to, you know, and not just, well, you know, I've done my job and that's that. You know, it's just the ongoingness of everything all of the time. You know, what's that concept they use in music? You know, we don't need to be a one-hit wonder. And you know, we got to keep coming up with, you know, solid gold hits all the time. Be number one on the chart, so to speak.
It never ends, the amount of experiences we can have through all of this, and the spirit side is getting more and more prevalent, and I feel these experiences are going to get more and more. We're trailblazing for those who are getting ready for this, you know.
Oh, well, we're gods, and what do we do as gods? We create. We keep creating, you know, and as we're creating, there's more life, more energy, always more territory. And you know, but that's why we can't really say that there's any ending to anything or there's any conclusion to anything. It's just, you know, we complete that part of the journey, and then we just move into the next part of the journey. But the thing I think is you got to remember how that you have to change when you get on to the next part of the journey, which is what I think as everyone is doing at this point. We're having to suddenly think, well, I just can't be that version of myself anymore because that doesn't fit in with the new territory. So I have to be this new version of myself because that frequency fits in with that way of living and that way of thinking, etc. So if we always try to stay the same, then, well, it's just going to create an awful lot of issues for ourselves as individuals. So, and you either make a conscious choice of changing or maintain your level of resistance and fight it all the way and force yourself, you know, to do it, basically, which is, you know, quite painful sometimes. and or as a friend of mine said to me today, it's like trying to sniff a tennis ball up your nose. You know. I thought, well, that's a good analogy.
That would definitely be the hard way, I'd imagine. Let's try and do these the easy way. It's like the more you dig your heels in, the more you're gonna end up having to do it the hard way. You may as well just, you know, ease into it, go with the flow.
The hard way isn't really the hard way. The hard way is just, it's just another way. And you know, so it's just another way. And you know, one could do it, you know, you could suffer or you could keep it easy and keep it light, so to speak. But even if you suffer, it doesn't mean that's bad. It's just more, that's just, as Tabaash would say, you're God doing it that way, basically. So there's always ways to do things. So
indeed. Well, would it be all right if we hear from Tabaash today? We can hear a message from him?
Yep, absolutely. So I'll pop them through. And
thank you so much.
It's saying it. I'll pop through Tabaash. Hang on. All right.
We appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, won't take long, and I'll see you later on.
Take your time, my friend.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, my friend. So good to see you.
Blessings to your audience. Nice to be able to talk to you all. So, yes.
So wonderful to join us. We have so many people that are very excited to hear from you today.
You know, I was thinking, whatever position you put yourself in, it gives you a chance to look at yourself. For you always seek for yourself. in all of your experiences, whether they be mind ones or body ones or spirit ones. And when you see for yourself, what you're choosing to do is, how do I see who I am? And not just through the visuals. How do I see through my feelings? How do I see through my ideas? How do I see through my responses and my reactions? It will never be about anyone else. It's always going to be about you all the time. And so this time of great honesty in human nature is such an essential ingredient to the way that you all wish to evolve and advance your ideas about self. A phrase I have been recently using for souls who have been very involved in their spiritual journey for some time is, stop working on yourself and instead work with yourself. For when you work with yourself, then you work with your power, you work with your alignment, you work with the fact that you're in charge, that you're the one who's doing the driving, you're the one who's making the choices. When one works on oneself, you don't know your God then. You're still being involved in your human experiences, working it out, figuring it out, earning the right, still finding the way, whatever. You know, that's what humans do. Gods never do that. God stands still and creates through choice. And so this is a time of being more considerate of making choices that are truly productive to your mind and your body and your spirit. And when you make choices, the choices are made by standing within the highest version of yourself, being exposed to the highest consciousness, so that in your observations, you're observing through your soul. And as you observe through your soul, then you're throwing out these codes of life that are highly productive to all aspects of self. One of the things that I think is very important for all humanity at this particular point, for those who've turned their lights on, is when you turn the light on, and yes, you see more, but because you see more, you will only see what you're able to see. Do not try to see more than is necessary. Do not try to do more than is needed. It's just not feasible, you know, and no one's going to miss out. And so when you are conscious of, here's my territory, well, then that's what you work with. Don't work with your territory wondering where you're going with it. You know, work with your territory and make the best of it, and the greatest of it. Invest in it. Involve yourself in, this is who I am. These are my thoughts. These are my feelings. This is what works for me. And then in doing so, you are strengthening your position, mind, body, spirit. And then as you feel a greater strength, you make your life work better for you. And then that's when you're able to offer up greater views of possibilities. But even when you see possibilities, see them as that. Not see them as, oh, I better go over there. And say, no, that's just a possibility. So that's just indicating to me of what I'm doing. So if you look at possibilities that present to yourself and you don't like them, then you got to think, oh, hang on a minute, what am I doing? Because it's always about the now that determines what your possibilities are going to be about. And that's just a gauge. So when you start observing and you recognize, well, hang on a minute, I seem to be going down a road that's not very productive. I'll change the road. And so, but people think, oh, well, I suppose I better go and see what happens and bump along the road, and you know, and you get further and further away from your sense of self. And it's like, imagine how humans were originally. It's like, and I see it this way, where it's like this big, beautiful fire, which had these little blue flames that were all coming up, and all souls were around that fire, connected to that energy. And then little by little, some of the souls started to step away from the fire. And then they went further and further and further until they got so far away, they were just in the dark. and then they went through experiences and situations, etc. But they always had in the back of their minds, as you people say, that light energy. And then they took themselves so far, and then they would stop and they go, "What am I doing?" And then you turn around, and you have to plow through all your stuff, and then at some point you get back to, oh, you're taking your place back in the light, and so and then you just join connections with all the other souls are doing the same one. It's a bit like, imagine you suddenly got back to the light and everyone looks at, oh, there's another one. Oh, come on, come back to where you belong, and then you all get illuminated, and you're just connecting together. And this is what's happening. People are turning around and don't want to be in the darkness anymore and going back to their light. And it's the light that feeds your soul. Darkness does not feed your soul. And so when you become in light of that concept, then you keep finding experiences that are giving you enlightenment, or to be in light of your life. And that's why if you overwork it, then you're just going to create more journeying for yourself, which is unnecessary. And you create arduous tasks to get you back to the light, as opposed to, no. I don't need to work on this. I'm God. I'm all-knowing. Stand still and activate that aspect of myself. Keep it normal and as a fact. No one has to work it out. No one has to find it. No one has to put themselves through stuff that is completely unnecessary. And if you're finding yourself doing that, well, that's about you and your story. That's not what the truth is. The truth is you're already free. You're already God. You're already powerful. You already have all the choices all the time. And it's just here in the rooms that you're in right now. It's not outside the window. Oh, is it out there somewhere? Let's find it. Is it under this glass? No, it's not there either. And so it's like, oh, that's why they call it inner learning and intuition, insightfulness. It's all there. And so you're breaking down the old illusions, and you're increasing your aptitude and ability to know what's real. And so but each individual is needing to be quite conscious at this point. What do I choose to be real? Not what does the universe want me to be real, or what does God want me to be? What are my guides telling me what is real? What do I choose as this soul in my body to be real? And that could be for the moment you're living in right now, or that could be for the rest of your evening, or when you wake up tomorrow morning. What do I choose to be real? And
so
if you
is this
have
why authenticity is the highest vibration?
I'm sorry?
Is this why authenticity is such a high vibration?
Of course, because when you get into what is authentic to you, then that's what's natural to you. And then when you know what's natural to you, establish a continuity and an alignment, and therefore an awareness. And then when you have awareness, then you've illuminated self, which gives you access to all of you. And that's when you realize that there's no place that you don't exist. You're everywhere. And so, look, it doesn't make sense, though, that you're going to be conscious of the fact that you're everywhere, because you go crazy. And instead, it's more a matter of, well, if I can be in the position I am right now, knowing I am everywhere, then I realize I'm being influenced by all of myself all of the time without having to think it or feel it. And occasionally, you get glimpses of this where a revelation presents itself to you, or a realization comes into your thought. Where did that come from? So some other version of yourself has just thrown an idea your way, or thrown a concept, or thrown an energy or feeling or support. And so you're finding great support from yourselves. And then you get other energies like spirit and dimensional frequencies and all that sort of stuff. But it's just energy that's just there, that you can access whenever you want, however you want. And that's why, as I say, you don't have to earn it or work at it or go through anything or work through your karma and all that sort of stuff. That's human stuff, human stories that were created to keep people away from themselves, their God nature. So let's go and create all these diversionary tactics to keep people away from the light. And of course, now you're all getting a lot wiser to that, and it's going, no way. And so you're maintaining your sense of lightness. So we applaud you for all of you who are turning those lights on, but also all of you who are helping others to turn lights on. Amazing. We honor you, and you should be proud of yourselves. And of course, there's just so much more of what this is happening more and more and more all the time. Keep it simple, keep it easy. It's a very basic process. There's nothing complicated about being God. There's nothing complicated about turning lights on. If you're finding there's complications, then you're caught up into human stories. And God is simple and God is truth. And when you go to your own God nature, you go to your truth. And when you go to your truth, you realize it was just here. And it's just a matter of like picking up this glass and go, well, it's just here. Well, we'll just have some drink of that and just put it down. You can make a big process. Bow to the glass and make lots of gestures to it and tell it how wonderful it is. I'm so full of gratitude for you. Oh, look at you. Water. Oh, water. You're wonderful. You're wonderful. And afterwards it's like I die of thirst because I've been working in the glass and the water and the deities. And that's what people do. They create all these different things. You only have to go to some of your churches and things like that where people have to dress themselves up in gold and silver with funny hats on and sway things around now and this and that and, read from the great books and all this stuff, as opposed to, let's go walk in the forest and sit by the brook and talk to God, and keep into the simplicity of it, you see. But humans have this necessity to create rituals. And they have to be very careful that they don't turn their rituals into another religion, because they lock themselves into the vibration of that. And then they start missing out what the truth is, because it gets so colored up with, oh, no, you got to breathe in that way first, or wink 7 times or whatever, And again, that's just, it's not needed. It's not necessary. And so, you're all being given the power of life. And exactly the same energy that the God vibration is. But because you're human in your nature on planet Earth, you have to create these ways of making it all feel important. Whereas it's just life. It's just life. And so that's where, if you can see it from that point, then you can step back and think to yourself, how am I making things overcomplicated for myself? Mind, body, and spirit. And then in your own ways, change that. Shift away from the complications. And look, I'm not saying don't do rituals and things, because there are very important spiritual rituals, disciplines, that do align you and link you in. But, don't go to play school, and the sense that by doing this, somehow you're becoming a spiritual person. You're already God. And so it's keep it basic, keep it easy, keep it simple. And that way you recognize how easy it is to bring the truth through. And, people think that they are giving the impression that they are knowing the truth by all the things that they do, but that's just noise. And so you need to look at, everyone does this, whether it's spiritual, mental, emotional, whatever, you'll create your own noises, that you don't need to. And that's why this is a really good time for all of you to find moments through your day where you can just be really quiet and keep it easy, keep it basic, keep it simple. So you can really hear who you are without all of the trappings that you've attached to yourself. And then having done that, then you can organize yourself in a much greater way. And it's a good way of looking at where 2024 has been. I think it's been a grand year of reorganizing, because there's been some good corners that have been turned. And so having turned those corners, then, people are a lot more au fait and aware. They got the lights on. Oh yeah, I can see now. And it's like, okay, we need to rearrange things a bit here, or do a bit of redecorating. So you're all redecorating at a point. So I gotta go. He's got another appointment soon. So
No worries. Thank you so much.
blessings to you all, and be the best version of yourself that you can be just every day. Don't put pressure on yourself, because that's what humans do. But if you're God, you don't do pressure. You do life. You do light. And you've got this great ultimate vibration, this great ultimate energy that is just in the room with you now. So even before you go to your beds this night, or wherever you are in the world, allow yourself to think, it's just here. And I'm here. And therefore, I can do whatever I choose. All right, I'll bring Blair back. Much love to you all.
Thank you so much, Tabaash. See you soon.
Oh.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that opportunity to be spirit tonight.
That's good. That's good. Huh, sorry, a bit spacey when I
No,
come
it's
back
all right.
from doing
It's
that.
all right.
So.
I feel so much warmth when he comes through. We almost feel presence even around us when we hear him speak, and it's just this radiating love that always comes through. And he's just so. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, look, I it's a great pleasure, and I just love the way Tabaash chooses to do his teaching, because from my perspective, so he just makes people a part of everything. We're all the same, we're all equal. Okay, he's honest and says it as he sees it and stuff like that, but he's not sort of separate or distant. There's no line that he draws. It's very much about we're all here to serve and love each other, and all that sort of stuff, basically. And so, but yeah, so it's interesting.
I feel like there's a lot of changes that are going to be made, and to know that we have so much support from the other side is not only comforting, it gives us renewed strength.
Well, I mean, obviously we've always had that, but we've evolved to the place where we have the awareness of that once again, and therefore, and we realize that it's actually quite practical, and I've realized that it's very practical. And I've been told to work on my fitness more and my diet more, because the way they want to put more power and more energy through my system. I've got this weakness for chippies, chips. Anyway.
Well, you do need to enjoy yourself,
No, I'm not. Anyway, I was walking through the supermarket. I was just doing a shop. Anyway, so oh, maybe I'll get down to that. So I went to the chippy aisle, you see, and I went my hand out, and all I heard was, "You don't need to buy that, Blair." Just like this in my head. I'm like, and I could feel myself resisting. Anyway,
that is so funny.
I listened. So, but yeah, I mean, they're just things that you have to follow through sometimes, whether it's a mind thing, body thing, a spirit thing, and it's for the better. But yeah, the human side comes in where it's like, I want my chips.
I'm going to share your link for everybody, because you do sessions for people. Yeah, in fact, two of the most important sessions I think I've ever really had have been with Tabaash. I feel like he almost activated things, or at least kind of gave me a nudge in the right direction. And
but he does, and the way he does it, he's just quite factual and practical and pragmatic, and but I know that when he works with people, he's also activating their energies. So there's more than just the words that he's actually given. And I've even had people saying that while they have sessions, even online, they said if they can feel energy coming their way, and shifting something within them. So yeah.
Well, last time you and I spoke, Mary Magdalene came in when Tabaash. She's like, "Hey, have you ever connected with Mary Magdalene?" I was like, "I don't know, have I?" And he's like, "Well, she would like to connect with you." And I just felt this wave of love, and I call it a bliss out, where you just feel so at peace. It's like you connect with Source, with God itself.
And look, more and more of this is happening all the time. you know, and when you recognize, oh yeah, I can see what's happening here, then the recognition of that automatically makes that alignment. And then you don't have to even do anything. It's just like, yeah, by the acknowledgement of that, I'm making that link. And then if more is necessary, then you get guided with that. You know, and I've realized that when we make those links, probably the simplest thing to do at the time is just acknowledge and be still with it. You know, as opposed to, oh, I've got this link, what should I do with it? It's like, no, just be with it. And know that there's a process involved that you will be directed with and guided with. And so so you learn to have faith in your awareness and how you direct that energy base or accept that energy, you know. And I think the thing with us in human terms is that we try to get too far ahead of everything, or we think we have to do something straight away with something, which, you know, puts pressure on ourselves, mind, body, and spirit, which isn't necessary at all. Yeah.
It's funny you say this, because this is the second reason why I booked another session with you, is because I'm like, what is taking so long with my abilities? Like, I'm meditating every day. I'm doing this and that. I'm like, come on, activate me. Like, what's going on? And they're like, no, you're already on the journey. You're on the ride here. You enjoy it.
Yeah. But, you know, well, this is it. It's about the living, you know, of your life, and knowing that, you know, if you're doing the appropriate things, mind, body, and spirit, then, you know, it happens when it happens. Yes. And I remember when I was training to connect with Tabaash's energy, and, you know, there's a few people who were aware of what was going on, and, you know, they'd consistently say to me, well, when is it going to happen? And is it happening yet? And all that sort of stuff. And I said, look, I don't know, you know, I'm doing what I'm doing. And you know, if I'll put you in the picture, they would get all frustrated and go, oh, is this really actually happening?
Oh. It reminds me of like the parents in the front of the car, and the kids are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And this whole guide's like, no, you get there just when you're meant to be there.
Yeah, well, that's true. But, yeah, but I mean, you know, when I think back on my own journey, and still with my journey, I can see, you know, the importance of consistent advancement and evolution of yourself, mind, body, spirit. And it doesn't always have to be, you know, big stuff. It's just the subtle changes that one feels one's making, where you just feel differently about yourself, and you just realize, well, you know, I don't feel like eating that anymore, or doing that anymore, or seeing those people anymore, or whatever. You just recognize the way you're simplifying things, and then bring in fundamental changes based on simplicity, as opposed to, you know, creating some major catalyst in your life. And, you know, quite frankly, in my life, I've had enough catalysts. I just want things to, you know, be easy, you know. Yeah. And okay, when I look back on the catalysts, like, you know, it's all around my wife's health, because she had cancer in the 80s, and then she got Alzheimer's, and, you know, that type of thing, and then she died. And each of those situations was obviously poignant for me. But then I remember I was in a meditation the other night and just thinking about, because it was the anniversary of Kay's passing on the 29th. And then I just said to Spirit, right, enough's enough. I don't need any more catalysts. You know, I get it. You know, I've evolved to this point. Now let's just get on with the process of it, basically. And I think we have to remember, it comes back to what I said before about, we do have those choices. You know, and I think that, you know, if you look at anybody of the listeners who's going through stuff, then I think we can actually get to a point and say to ourselves, hey, look, enough's enough. I don't want to do it this way anymore. You know, it's not happening to me. It's happening because of me. So I decide, no, I'm not going to allow this anymore. And I think sometimes we have to have a bit of a, what shall I call it? A good old fashioned talking to ourselves, you know, where we just put ourselves in the picture and go, no, I don't need to do this now. I don't need to think that or be that, or whatever the case may be, you know, and to say it with authority. You don't have to be saying it through frustration or any emotions, but just state a fact. Enough's enough.
Enough is enough.
Yeah, totally. And it works. And then, but the thing is, you have to also go, okay, right, well, now that I've changed that reality, now where do I stand? And that's where it's, okay, I'm in a nice, peaceful place. I will enjoy this energy while I observe what my next possibilities could be. and that's where we learn how to be a bigger observer. But then saying that makes me think, be a bigger observer through your empowered state. You know, and I like what Tabaash talks about. How does he say it? How you wear yourself. It's how we wear ourselves. And so if we're wearing ourselves in an ultimate way, then we're going to have an ultimate day, for want of a better slogan. And so anyway, hey, it's been awesome talking to you all.
Really amazing. Thank you so much, Blair. I'm going to share your link for anybody that would like to book a session with you. I imagine you're booked quite a bit ahead, though.
Yeah.
But
at the moment,
it's absolutely worth the wait.
Yeah, it'll be, I'm just trying to think. There's a few appointments left in October, and then probably a few around November, and then a few in December. So it's about that. So.
Just wanted to say thank you again, because you have been instrumental for many of us over the years, and even more so in the future, I imagine, because your work is never finished. So just thank you ahead of time, even.
Look, thank you guys, because we're all serving each other, and I think one of the things I've learned hugely in my work is, we are all gods and we're all equal, and we're all here to serve each other. And I just sort of think, rather than there's like this hierarchy, it's like we're all just one line looking down that way, walking towards something greater, linked in like that, or that
walking each other home, as they say.
Yeah, totally, and just helping to activate each other's vibrations and energy. And I think it's really important also to just treat it like it's just a normal everyday thing. And often a comment I often get, which is quite funny, is people often say to me when they meet me in a meeting or something like that afterwards, they go, "Oh, you're quite normal." Yeah, you're quite normal, or you're actually taller than I thought you'd be. And you're sitting down all the time, so a lot of people, "Oh, I thought you were really short," and I'm about 5'11", and so people always either say I'm normal or I'm taller than they thought I'd be. So, which is quite funny. Anyway, but what it is.
I hope I get to meet you in person someday, Blair. I would love to come to an event with you speaking. We'll manifest it.
Well, okay.
Thank
well,
you again.
Hey guys,
I love you too. Thank you very much. I will see you all on Monday. Have a good evening. Bye, guys.